Norwex wet mop pad. It's best to start with the damp pad. That's it. We're ready to go. When you need a fresh mist, angle the handle straight up to 90 degrees and push down to deliver the perfect spray of water. Mop smart with Norwex.
از خون جوانان وطن لاله خدا لاله جانم لاله دمیده از ماتم سر از ماتم سر به قدشان سر جانم سر خدا سر سر و خمیده در سایه گل بلبل از این قصه خزیده گل نیست چو من در غمشان جامه خدا جامه خدا جامه.
Welcome to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here. We are live on worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube Rumble and X account, and worldviewtube app. We're also live on X America News on X and my platforms on X, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Substack. As always, I will ask you to join the conversation on the comment sections, hit that share button, invite your friends to the stream, and of course hit that thumbs up or heart to put us higher on algorithm. I greatly appreciate it. 7 weeks, stepping into 8th week of Iran's revolution. I know, all the headlines moved on. We won't, not here, not on Live Up to Freedom. We will remember them, we will keep being their voice, and we will not stay quiet. It's been a rough 7 weeks, no question about it. It's been a rough 3 days, very rough. With everything going on, of course, in Iran, in America, and around the world. I almost did a special stream on Saturday, but then I told myself I can wait until Monday. On Saturday, last Saturday, February 21st, marked 6 years of the world losing a hero, a patriot, America, and for myself, a great friend, and the closest thing I have ever had as an earthly father. I released a Substack earlier today, remembering Phil Haney, after 6 years of losing him. I had a fairly short period of time with him, but that was enough for him to make an impact, huge impact on my life. It is absolutely not an exaggeration for me to say I do miss him every day of my life, probably because as I promised before, and I said on my Substack today again, I will carry the torch. And I received so much training. When I met him, I was still fairly new to the public fight. I wasn't new to the fight, I wasn't new to the topic or the information, but I was new to the public fight. And he taught me a lot. He was very funny, actually. Great jokes. He had a great, he played the guitar and he did singing, and he had a huge heart. And on top of that, he had so much logic that was very impressive. For those of you who very sadly may not know of Phil Haney. He was one of the founding members of Homeland Security. He mastered the language of Arabic while in the Middle East working on science projects before even getting involved with government. And he was a truth teller. We'll hear some of his own words on the topic today, because I could sit here and tell you everything that I heard from him on air, off air, on a stage, on private phone calls, but there's always better to hear from him. One of the times that I'm very grateful for internet, the hate-love relationship I have with internet is, technology and internet has allowed his voice to stay with us, his message to carry on for those of us at least who care to continue hearing his message, his warnings. He was betrayed by his own government, flat out evidence out there through his own words, other testimonies, his own book, See Something, Say Nothing, which we'll get to that as well. So I figured we're going to absolutely dedicate today's show to Phil Haney. And as I concluded on my Substack today, he taught me to be strong. He never... There was not a single time of a phone call if he called and said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm just tired of it." He's like, "You don't get to be tired of it." He did not accept being tired and throwing in the towel. It was all about the strength. You'll find it in you, and if you can't find it in you, you'll pray to God to give you the strength that's needed for today. A great man of God. He was the second person in my life that I told that I was saved. I was saved on a stage that I shared with him for first time in my life in 2017. I have known him before, met him once before, but I had the honor to share a stage with him in Chicago, at a Stone Church in Chicago. And on that day, on that shared stage, is the day I was saved. And he played a huge role in my ear being open that day to hear the message. So yes, I miss him on a personal level. I miss him as that father figure who kept me very grounded, cracked jokes, and he knew so much about my culture. It was amazing. We would talk about my culture. We would talk about the music and the poetry and Molavi and Hafiz and Maulana and Qali and Tariq. I mentioned in my Substack that small things. As I said, it's been a rougher 3 days, grieving for my fellow Iranians, and then 6 years hitting on Saturday. Definitely life lessons, right? I cannot wait to see him again in heaven. But when he's not here, he brought up once of, he loves Tariq, which is a kind of a Persian thing, it's a crunchy form of either bread or rice we make under our rices. And I told him next time I'll see him, I'll bring him some Tariq, and that next time never happened. So I still owe him a Tariq, and I miss him. Funny enough, every time I make Tariq, I remember him. Of course, his passion and commitment to exposing the political Islam, the infiltration of Islam inside America, focusing on certain groups that until Phil Haney, nobody else was even talking about them, including Tablighi Jamal. He was the man who brought him up. He was the man who talked about him. Nobody before him even said anything about him. He was the man who did the research, not just to click keyboard buttons, but he did the research of catching names, hundreds of names, that were caught early enough not to do damage. And his own words to me, the commitment is to save as many lives as we can by stopping those who want to take those lives. I can do my best, but I can never be as brave as he was. I can never be as good as he was. But just because he was murdered, I refuse, until my last breath, I will refuse to believe what FBI put out as he committed suicide. No, he didn't. Myself, Brandon House, right here on Worldview YouTube, Leo Homan, and many other in 2020, 2021, 2022, we have done extensive long programming countering the lies of the suicide. All of us knowing him on personal level, professional level, broadcasting level. But I'm glad to say that his work didn't die with him. It didn't. I wish he was today here physically on Earth, because Lord knows how much we could use his voice. With everything, with all the new developments, everything that's going on, his voice would have mattered. So I want to encourage you, invite you to go back and listen to him. If you knew him, if you heard him before, go back and listen again. If you didn't listen to him for any reason, no judgment here, but go watch him, listen to him. I will plug Worldview YouTube here, because Brandon House, as I have always said this on his show, off his show, on air, off air, Brandon, we all owe a great debt of gratitude to Brandon House. This is one of those times that I personally do, is aside the fact that I still have a voice because of his network and his generosity, but there is a very valuable collection of Phil Haney at Brandon House's desk, the news desk of Brandon House. That is still standing. It has not been removed. It has not been deleted, because Brandon doesn't censor anyone, right? So go to Worldview YouTube, go to the vault. I think it's worldviewyoutube.com/vault. I'm probably mispronouncing the V at the beginning of that, but you get what I'm saying. And sit there and watch the series. It wasn't 1 or 2 episodes. It's a series that Worldview YouTube produced for Phil Haney. All of his thoughts, from infiltration of Islamists inside America, from Tablighi Jamal in Middle East, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Red-Green Axis, the corruption inside our own government, covering up for the Islamization of America. Catch them, watch them, take notes, and then talk about it. As I said, I've done my best to do it, but I'm just one voice. And somebody replied to my Substack saying it's hard to believe that he's been gone for 6 years. Yes. But what he said, what he exposed, what he documented before they took his life is timeless. It's so valuable and so timeless that he may not be here, which again, I wish he was. There are too many days and nights that I wish I could pick up the phone and call him. But his message can still help us today. So, yeah, grab his series, take notes. If you haven't read his book, grab a copy. It's still available. See Something, Say Nothing. It's a book that you should read. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go to our first ad break, and when we come back, I will check out your comments, and we get to listen to Phil Haney a little bit. How about that? Be right back.
Life is too short to spend a single moment spinning in laundry worries. Take a load off your mind with the all-new Norwex Powerzyme laundry detergent. This natural detergent harnesses the power of enzymes and plant-based surfactants to leave fabrics fresh and clean without fillers, brighteners, synthetic fragrances, bleach, or harsh chemicals. So go ahead, have your cake and eat it too. More than ever, stressful stains have met their match. Powerzyme's fast-acting enzymes break down organic substances while natural surfactants loosen locked-in dirt and oil, removing residue, stains, and odors with ease. With 91% bio-based ingredients, this dermatologist-tested hypoallergenic formula is suitable for sensitive skin types and delivers a safe and effective clean that won't harm you or the planet's waterways. Less time spent worrying about laundry means you can focus on what truly matters. Norwex Powerzyme Laundry Detergent. Discover the power of nature and load up on confidence.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with me until now. I greatly appreciate you being here. Hi, Lori. It is so good to see you. I know it's been a long time, right? I do apologize. I tried to do a show Friday. It almost became impossible. And I normally try to make sure that the hour I spend with you guys is productive and, I'm not just sitting here rambling on. And Friday would end up being dead. But we're back. Dawn, good to see you. Dawn says, I highly recommend Phil Haney's book, See Something, Say Nothing. I do too. I don't know if you can see in my bookshelf, but it is right here. Right here. This is a book that you should read. Everybody should read. It's a wonderful book, and I know it's the small things, right? I cherish the first page of this book every day. Yes, Lori, myself and others are trying to be his voice, but we need more voices than just me and few other handful. And yes, the rod does run very deep. Let's head over to our other platforms. In the comments, hi, hands off the kids. I'm glad you're on the same boat. Yes, we refuse to receive the cover-up and lies of FBI that Phil Haney took his own life. No, that did not happen. Hi, Pookie. It is so good to see you. Pookie saw my Instagram video today. That was from, I think, 2020 or 2021. But yes, it's definitely one of my clips. Hey, Tennessee Girl, good to see you. Yes, may he rest in peace. I think he does when we carry the torch for him, when we honor his bravery by trying to be brave and following his footstep, using his, again, timeless and precious information to continue shedding light on all things that he tried to help us understand. Thank you, Pookie. I strongly suggest, as I said, worldviewtube.com/vault is by far the most extensive series of Phil Haney, also his book and other places. Hi, Payman, it is so good to see you. Bat says, explain Tarof to your audience. Funny enough, you say that because the second amazing surprise through my culture was that Phil actually knew about Tarof. The first time he actually said about it, I was like, wow, you actually know that. So I'll go over Tarof since Bat brought it up. In our culture, in Persian culture, there's a thing called Tarof. It is very annoying. I do not practice it. I don't like it. It annoys me very much. But it's what I would say excessive shyness plus excessive kindness. It's like literally you go to a restaurant with your friends. Normally in America, how it goes is either you all tell the waiter or waitress to open a separate bill, or at the end you just split the bill. Oh no, not in our culture. Like 10 people go to dinner, and at the end of the night, it's like fight over the bill because like I'm a pay. No, I have to pay for it. No, impossible. I'm paying for it. Like in most, not like in Iranian restaurants, they're used to the concept, but in American restaurants or Kenyans, it's very awkward for the waiter or waitress. They're just standing there like, can't somebody just pay for it? It's fun to an extent. It's respectful to an extent, but we take it way too far. Literally, they stand at the door coming into the building or to a house or wherever it is. It's like, you go first. No, you go first. No, you got to go first. Now, impossible. You got to go first. It's like, just get in, somebody. And by the way, that's one of the reasons when I'm inside the circle of Iranians, I tend to sometimes be the rude person because first of all, it's too young to get into the depth of Tarof. Secondly, even when I was in Iran, it was pretty annoying to me. So I don't practice it. I don't play into it. Like when they open the door, they're like, "You go first." I just go first, and they're like, "Oh, she's so mean," or "She's so rude." I'm like, I don't mean to be rude. I just don't do it. But it was amazing when Phil actually knew about it. And it was the fact of he asked if well, we were at a dinner table at a mutual friend's house, and he was like, "Yeah, you want some more bread?" I was like, "No, I'm good." It's like, "Is that a tarof?" I was like, "You really know about tarof?" It's not tarof on my end, but wow, you know about tarof. He was so culturally rich. Like it wasn't just about Iran. Like culturally, he was very rich. But for me, it was very amazing. The man you adore, the man who's your teacher, the man who's almost becoming your father, knows so much about your culture. That's just like, you can imagine how amazing that is. So yes. Hey, Christopher, it's good to see you. Agreed, Rhonda. This book, everybody must read it. I wish, I wish everybody would when he was still around, but never too late. You can still. Oh, Tennessee girl, I'm having a hard time not tearing up as it is. You're probably gonna break me down again. Appreciate that. I do. Um, Yes, Pookie looked up. It says Haney, Phil Haney, Department of Homeland Security officer. Well, correct as founding member. He wasn't just officer. He was one of the founding members. Discovered Obama operatives scrubbing important national security information from intelligence files, data exposing Islam as a verifiable threat to America. Since you brought that up, let's do this. Let's go first to his testimony. There is a video of, I don't know how much is the duration, and it doesn't matter, but he gave his testimony about this very discovery. Let's go listen to his words, and then we'll come back in. I'll check on your comments again.
Testing. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to testify here today. Also, I'd like to express my appreciation for the patience of the members on the committee and Senator Coons while obtaining a copy of my written testimony. I'd like to start with a visual aid. This is the Homeland Security Advisory Council Countering Violent Extremism Subcommittee Interim Report for 2016. My colleague referred to it earlier as suggesting that we should refrain from using words like Ummah or Jihad or Sharia. I would like to also show you another visual aid, and this is what is called the Words Matter memo that was published in January of 2008. And my story today is going to be what happened between these two documents, these two touchstone documents, 2008 and 2016, because it was during that period of time that what we know now as the Countering Violent Extremism policy came to be. And one of the expressions of that policy is what we heard all about in the media in the few days after the Orlando shootings, that Attorney General Lynch was going to release partial transcript of Orlando 911 calls with all references to Islamic terrorism removed. That is a condensation of what was actually happening behind the scenes with subject matter experts like myself, who were sworn officers to protect our country from threat, both foreign and domestic. Between these two dates, 2008 and 2016, came what I call the first great purge, when I was ordered by the Department of Homeland Security headquarters to modify, a euphemism, removing all linking information out of approximately 820 text subject records in our law enforcement system that almost exclusively had to do with Muslim Brotherhood Network here in the United States. I was told to remove all unauthorized references to terrorism, that I was no longer allowed to do what are called memorandums of information received, what we call MOIRs, no more text records, no more research, and no more special treatment from the agency. But during that time, hundreds of law enforcement actions had been taken in the 3-year period when those 820 plus records were still in the law enforcement system. At exactly the same time, a controversial inaugural meeting took place on January 27th and 28th, 2010 between American Muslim leaders and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano, which was hosted by the Department of Homeland Security Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. It was controversial because several of the individuals attended the invitation-only conference in D.C. were known affiliates of at least two of the same Muslim Brotherhood front groups that had just been named as unindicted co-conspirators in the largest terrorism trial in the history of the United States, the Holy Land Foundation trial. Also that spring, at least 6 individuals with known affiliations to the Muslim Brotherhood front groups were appointed to the Countering Violent Extremism CVE Working Group, which was convened under the authority of the Homeland Security Advisory Council. I would like to show you now the logo of the Muslim Brotherhood, the moderate organization that this administration chose to ally itself with. Across the middle it says Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin, which means the brothers of the Muslim, or the Muslim Brotherhood. And at the bottom, taken from Quran 860, is the word Wa'ayuda, which means prepare yourselves to terrify your adversaries with steeds of war or weapons of war. That is the motto of the Muslim Brotherhood. By the spring of 2010, we had come to the point that a CBP officer was literally linking information, meaning the dots, on Muslim Brotherhood-linked individuals from text, while the administration was bringing the very same individuals into positions of influence to help create and implement our counterterrorism policy, both in the domestic arena and in the foreign policy arena, as evidenced in our overt support of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, Libya, Algeria, and Syria. Fast forward to August 30, 2011, when the Tablighi Jamaat court case that I worked on was approved by the Chief Counsel of Department of Homeland Security. And this is an icon of the Tablighi Jamaat movement, one of the largest in the world. Outside of the United States, it's called the Army of Darkness. I began a TDY assignment, meaning temporary duty, at the National Targeting Center in November of 2011. Within 6 months, we had instituted 1,200 law enforcement actions on the case that we had started. But in September of 2012, what I call the second Great Purge, when the administration removed 67 linking records out of that case that had direct ties both to the San Bernardino Mosque, Darul Uloom al-Islamiyah San Bernardino, and the Islamic Center of Fort Pierce down in Florida. In other words, the network that we had worked on at NTC is tied directly to the terrorist attacks that we've seen recently. At the end of my career, I was relieved of my service weapon. All access to text was cut off and suspended. My secret clearance was revoked, and I was sequestered for 11 months while the results of 3 simultaneous investigations from 3 different branches of the government were concluded. In July of 31 of last year, I retired honorably. In conclusion, the threat of Islamic terrorism does not just come from a network of armed organizations such as Hamas and ISIS, who are operating over there somewhere in the Middle East. In fact, branches of the same global network have been established here in America, and they are operating in plain sight, especially among those of us who have been charged with the duty of protecting our country from threats both foreign and domestic. The goal, meaning the strategy of the global Islamic movement, is based on Quran 2:191 through 193, and is actually quite simple: to establish Sharia law everywhere in the world, including here in America. And there is an organization in the United States that's actively doing that. It's called the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. Very benign sounding name, but in Arabic is Majama Fuqaha al-Sharia bi-Amrikiya, the group of lawyers implementing Sharia law in the United States, which is unconstitutional. The threat that we face today, that continues growing despite the willful blindness of those who insist on pretending otherwise, are not the tactical methods of violent extremism, terrorism, or even operative verbs such as jihad, but rather the historical and universally recognized Islamic strategic goal of implementing Sharia law everywhere in the world, so that no other form of government, including the United States Constitution, is able to oppose its influence over the lives of those who must either submit to its authority, become second-class dhimmi citizens, or perish. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Haney. Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. It's good to see you again.
See what I mean by timeless? We are facing all of that today, aren't we? Nobody. No administration after Obama reversed that Obama administration order. We haven't brought back those terminologies. We still don't train our FBI agents on those terminologies, those ideologies, and those goals. Muslim Brotherhood is still not a designated terrorist group in America. A few chapters of it were touched, but not the organization by itself. Lord, how much do we need Phil Haney's voice today as things get even darker than that testimony, which was in July of 2016, I believe. And that was just the beginning of the battle for Phil. I want to say this. As I said, he was betrayed by his own government. In his book on, I think it's chapter 10 or 11, Kill the Messenger. It's the title of that chapter, Kill the Messenger. They did. They did. On my Substack today, I did say that legally I can't sit here and say I know the government or shadow government killed him, but I will say this. The very government that instead of protecting him as a whistleblower turned against him, tried to convict him. They went as far as a grand jury. No conviction came out of it. Yes, he retired honorably, but he was forced to retire. He wasn't done. They forced him. That very government also investigated his death and concluded on his suicide. So that is just a one-liner to keep in mind. For those of you, I know many of you have kindly written me over the years of, I need to come out of this mindset and accept the conclusion by FBI. I refuse to do that for what I just said. For what I just said. The very government that turned against him. And again, he wasn't a, Annie Cyrus, some dual citizen, human rights activist, former Sharia child bride. No, he was one of the founding members of the Homeland Security. He served this country. He deserved much better. But unfortunately, as the days go by, a month and years, our government becomes more loyal to foreign powers than to its own patriots, own people. Let's go take our second ad break, and when we come back, I'm gonna check on your comments again. Be right back. Well, hello everybody, it's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my artist studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. Finish this painting, but I'm sure, for at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com. Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with me until now. I should apologize. I started the show without apologizing for being an hour late. We started the show an hour late today. There was a little bit of a conflict of a schedule for today, and I just saw somebody saying that I was an hour late. Yes, we did start an hour late. I apologize. Canal, good to see you on Rumble. And thank you. Another person knowing Phil Haney and refusing to believe he killed himself. Gypsy Princess 75, see something, say nothing. I appreciate you, Gypsy. Hey, Dan, so good to see you. And Oh, thank you. Have you stayed in contact with his fiance? I wonder how she is doing. Gypsy's asking if I stayed in touch with Phil Haney's fiance. For those of you who may not know, he was engaged and he was getting ready for his marriage. I did not, Gypsy. I respectfully, she wanted some space, and after that, she just wanted to be kind of done with it all. So I respected her wishes, and I hope she's doing good. I hope she's hanging in there. Hey Dylan, good to see you. The repercussions of suicide can be devastating, not only emotionally, but financially for the surviving family members. Life insurance and retirement can be affected. Yes, Dan, but I don't think the cover up or the suicide was much about that, but rather the fact that, well, his testimonies, his documents, say something, say nothing. He was about to publish a second book that he was going to name names, and that played a bigger role on the fake suicide than anything else. Hey, Ann Rapture Ready, good to see you. We all know our very own fine, upstanding government murdered Mr. Haney. It was a collaboration, or a cooperation, I should say. Lori says if they had listened to what he brought out, yes, but that's the thing. I'm sure you can tell how much I love him. Not loved, I still love him, and I miss him. But it's not just Phil. There has been many people, many of us, who have brought documentation and proof for what we claim, and we get persecuted for bringing up the truth. Forget about listening to us. As I said, it was a rough weekend. I had a conversation with my dear friend on the phone yesterday last night for a good 3 hours or so, and it got to a point, and I hope you don't mind me going down this pity party for a minute, and I told him, I said, you know, I'm starting to be that kid in the class. I don't know if you were that kid or if you had that kid in the class, the kid who knows all the answers and keep raising her hand, but the teacher doesn't ask her for the answer because they want to give the rest of the class equal chance to answer. And then at some point she just doesn't raise her hand anymore. I'm there. This isn't about me being self-centered. This is about me having a record. I have a resume of 11 years of predictions that have come to happen, including the most recent one, for those of you who were listening. But, you know, I kept trying. I kept sending emails to all the places of, hey, can I get 10 minutes of your time? I need to inform you on something. No answer. Same thing happened to Phil Haney. Same thing has happened to others that I'm not going to name. So it's that point of, and no, I'm not giving up, please. That's just where my head is at. But as I said, one thing I owe to Phil, at least, is that you don't get to throw in the towel. Be mad, be tired, be exhausted. He actually once said, why don't you just hang up, have a good cry, and then call me back. And then we continue planning. I'm not giving up, but you get to that point of how many more sacrifices, how many more lives, when? It's a group of us that we have the evidence, we have the receipt, we have the pattern recognition, we have the solution to the problem. But forget about hearing us. We are persecuted for knowing the truth, for having solutions, because Phil Haney had the solutions too. He kind of hinted at it, right? He had the ability through his research to stop some of these Islamic attacks. What did they do to him? First, his first backlash from his own government, then he was dragged in handcuffs, and he has talked about all of that on his videos. Indictment, grand jury, forced to retirement, and losing his life over it. And the lack of response is what is the worst. It's the worst. Maybe 4. I know for a fact Front Page Magazine, I know myself, I know Brandon House, I know one other person who touched on Phil Haney today and yesterday. Done. Moving on with it. That's the thing. That the cult and the cancer of clickbait and number of followers, we just chase after today's news. Phil Haney is today's news. His work is today's news. His warning is today's news. And his murder should be today's news. I agree, Sherry. This clip needs to get posted and reposted all over. The moment you post it, shadow banning happens, just so you know. John says he was way ahead of his time. We need his voice and mind now more than ever. Amen. And that's why, again, aside the personal, like I can't get through February 21st without Phil in it. It just doesn't happen. But more than ever, I'm asking you, grab his videos, grab his speeches, grab his articles, grab his book, put it back out there. What is happening today with Muslim Brotherhood, with CARE, with convicted jihadists walking into the Religious Liberty Office, with Qatar, with Saudi Arabia, with the Qatar base, with Epic City. Come on, if today is not the day of echoing Phil Haney's voice, I don't know when it is. We should have done it when he was around, but okay, we failed him when he was around. Today we can make up for it. He has left us with so much information, timeless information. Grab them. Did he ever get the second book out? Or no, he did not. That's the thing. Most of us are still pretty sure that the second book was the main cause of them taking him out. Lori says, I guess Haney knew who and what was really involved with September 11. Yes, he did. And he does have videos. He does have articles about it. He did. Here's what I want to go. There were so many reasons, I tell you, so many reasons that we clicked, me and Phil, quickly. But I remember I was producing a show. I was the producer behind the scene, and Phil was the guest on that show. And somebody else that I can't even remember. Pardon, forgive me if that somebody else is watching me. Anyways, and the host, concludes, they talk about the show and all that, and the host wasn't like the host. I know the host, amazing. You guys know him too, but he was kind of angling at the, the rumors out there of, what would you say to Phil Haney? He said, what would you say to those who say, September 11 was an inside job? Phil literally was like, I got nothing to tell them. If they don't want to know the truth, they don't want to know the truth. That was Phil's answer. Like, it's like, I'm not even entertaining yet. It's like, no. He wouldn't even answer that question or entertain that angle. Thank you, Christopher. Christopher says, you're never alone. There are millions of us. We're just spread out. I know. We need to start a not so spread out group. I don't even know how to phrase what I mean to say. He was working on a new book. Yes, well, he wasn't working on a new book. He was done with his new book. He was about to go publish. I know for a fact that he was done with the book. He was getting ready to publish the book. Stevie said possible someone can get an uncompleted second book out. It's not possible, unfortunately. I can't get into the details of why, but trust me, there was an attempt by some of us. That's not a possibility. And that was the whole goal. That book had to be buried and not come out. I know it's worse being over there and experiencing it, but do know we are suffering along with you. Just differently. I appreciate that, Tennessee girl. I do. You remain in our thoughts, hearts, and prayers 24/7. Appreciate that. We're going to go take our last ad break, and when we come back, we still have one or two more clips of Phil Haney to listen to, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world, and it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
Amen. I agree. I said it a little earlier. There aren't too many people like Brian House who will be generous enough to share his platform, that he built the platform by himself, but then he's graciously sharing it with the rest of us. That earns support, spiritual support and financial support. So www.foundation.com, I hope I'm getting that URL correctly. www.foundation.com is where you can make 100% tax deductible donation to Brannon's ministry that is supporting the network, which is supporting people like myself. And as I said, you don't find, I promise you, go anywhere, do the deepest dive you can, you will not find an archive, an organized archive of Phil Haney. You won't. You'll find it on Worldview too, but nowhere else. And again, I know Brannon doesn't charge us. Brannon doesn't, I mean, there are networks who will, charge you $700-800 per hour to give you a platform. He doesn't. He gives us his platform. He gives us his equipment. As I said, Phil Haney did it inside the studio. It wasn't even remote. Brannon would fly him in. He would sit there, do all these episodes using the equipment, and then the control room guys would sit there and do the post-production one by one. No dictation of what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say. Again, there's an archive of many other hosts, but again, as today's topic, if it wasn't for Worldview Tube, well, we wouldn't have a solid archive to go and grab Phil Haney's words. And those of us who knew him, those who didn't, come to know him, understand his message, and get educated. So www.foundation.com is where you can make a tax-deductible donation to support Brannon. That I agree, Vicky. Yes, Worldview Tube is the real deal. Proven pattern. Again, I'm all about, as you know, I'm all about behavior pattern. It's just my thing. And this isn't Phil Haney has been killed for 6 years. So this isn't like, oh, Brannon started. No, Brannon's been generously sharing his self-built empire of broadcasting with a lot of us. And again, like when Brannon met me, not that I'm a somebody today, but I was absolutely like, you go back and watch his documentary, The Siege, which that's where he was looking for someone like me, and Phil Haney introduced me to Brannon House. This was 2018. You Watch Me, which I was heavily featured on The Siege. You can find that on Worldview Tube as well. Worldview Tube Vault as well. You go back and like even my English is nowhere near where I'm at today. Point being, he doesn't go to look for, famous, popular clickbait names. He gives the legit people who have a message, who have a story, who have a background in it. And it's like, okay, here's a platform, here's a professional crew, here's professional equipment, let's get your message out. Lori, I'm guessing you're talking about the shadow government, or at least I think, because you just said they are all wickedly evil. Okay, let's go here, clip number 2. The story behind this book from Phil Haney, and we'll be right back.
My name is Philip Haney. I'm the author of the book See Something, Say Nothing, which is a story of my time in the Department of Homeland Security as a federal officer in counterterrorism. The agency began in 2003 specifically to defend our country from terrorism. Over time, I saw a gradual change in the mandate of that agency, and it began being more concerned about the civil rights and civil liberties of foreign nationals, people coming into the country, than they were about the constitutionally mandated civil rights and civil liberties of American citizens. And that's why I wrote the book, to document the history and make it available to the American public exactly what happened from the time of the founding of the agency to this very day.
It is so heart-wrenching. It's so heart-wrenching. And I want to emphasize again, this is started with Obama, no question about it. Phil just told us. Started with Obama. But it didn't end with Obama. It didn't. To this day, it is happening. To this day, our whistleblowers are persecuted. To this day, many don't come out with information because they don't want what happened to Phil Haney to happen to them. To this day, we are not holding our government of any party accountable. To this day, the purge continued. To this day, as he just said, the civil rights of foreign nations are more important than the safety of Americans. This is why, yes, for me, this is about Phil Haney. But for America and Americans, this should be about the man who told us what's coming. And instead of backing him up, instead of supporting him, instead of being on his path, we allowed a cover-up. We allowed a cover-up to become what is left of Phil Haney. That is shameful. That shouldn't have happened. And 6 years later, as I said, a handful of us are still talking about it. It's done. Another reason, I guess I should say this. Another reason, sometimes someone like me sits there in her living room and is like, why? About a week after they kill you, everybody's going to move on with their life. Why? Then I remember, because this is the right thing to do. And if a week after they kill me, everybody forgets, then I did my part, just like Phil Haney did his, and many others. We can't even make people listen to us today, let alone after we're dead. Are the transcripts for this book is still around? Dan, I know they are, but we can't get to them. We cannot, unfortunately, get to them. Yes, I'm trying to read your handle on YouTube. Forgive me, I can't end this radio. Something, Windog Radio, I think. America is in deep trouble. Yes, America is in deep trouble. They are. The world is in deep trouble, says Lori. Very true. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, there is just too much. Again, I'm normally a level-headed person who can separate emotion from logic, and this might sound emotional, partially is emotional, but more than anything, it is the logic. No matter how I look at it, for the last 6 years, this 2 + 2 shall equal 4, but the fact that the world has allowed it to equal 6 is driving me crazy. This shouldn't have happened. And when it did, the lack of pushback, the lack of complaints, the lack of questions was telling. And again, it's been 6 years. That didn't happen yesterday. Skid says, Brandon said on Worldview Radio today that Annie will be a guest tonight on Brandon House Live. Yes, I will be joining Brandon House for tonight. We're going to be discussing the almost 3 hours interview of Tucker Carlson and Ambassador Mike Huckabee that needs some coverage. So yes, Skid, I will be joining Brandon tonight. And correct, Vicky, when you support Worldview YouTube, you're supporting all of us who are on the platform. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate your kind words. Yes, Vicky says you can trust the guests that are on Brandon's show. Brandon does have a fairly good system of vetting people before they jump on camera with them, or even giving them shows for that matter. It is. Okay, I have a few minutes left. I need to give a minute or so. Thomas, can you tell me how long is our closing video? Is it like a minute and a half? A minute? Oh, perfect. Okay, so we have about a minute because I want to leave you guys with a video today that I think you should watch. But thank you for joining me today. Let me get emotional now. Let me get into the depth of my inner head. Life is too short, yes. But we don't leave just once. We leave every day. We die once. And what a beautiful moment when, if we die and be a Phil Haney. A man who didn't let his fear get in the way of his path. A man that didn't fear his enemy. He feared God. And he said that to me. So I know I'm repeating his own sentence. A man who realized that if he doesn't do the right thing, if he doesn't speak the truth, one day he's going to have to put his head down and not have any answers for his fellow people. I want to take this very heavy moment and say, let's try to be his voice, not because he needs us to be his voice, because we need his voice. I want you to bring back Phil Haney, the man, the research, the warning, the testimony, the book, the writings. Bring him back. Bring him back, learn from him again, pray for him. And then pray for all of us. Because right now, there is so many collapsing moments happening around our nation, which I will cover this week on my show. Today was all about Phil Haney. But there are so many collapsing moments around us that if we don't stay in prayer, if we do not stand strong like people like Phil Haney, if we allow our fear to silence us for the possibility of getting one extra day of life on earth, then these collapsing moments are gonna be the shame we're gonna feel for the rest of our lives, here and after. So, in honor and memory of my dearest Phil Haney, I encourage you to stay strong. I encourage you to stay in prayers, and I encourage you to get to know Phil Haney. And if you already knew him, go back and visit Phil Haney. I will be back tomorrow to do more talking, while you guys join me on the comment section. Bye, guys.
And we can hear the sound, but we cannot tell where it's coming from. And we cannot tell where it's found.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Are we keeping you awake? Joining me now is Melissa House and Dolly House. All right, good girl, Dolly. You wanted to say hello to everybody, didn't you? All right, good girl. All right, Melissa's first appearance for 2026, Melissa. Thanks for coming to the studio. Let's talk real quick before we get on with our show here about the great products making 2026 for those who haven't started the year they start. Bella Grace and or Numi, Gatatana, and Get Healthy. Let's talk about it. Which one you want to talk about first? Bella Grace?
Sure, we'll talk about Bella Grace first.
All right.
Well, you know, I absolutely love the elixir, and I feel like it's made us so much healthier. Don't you agree?
I 100% agree. Look at my great hair growth. No cracked, bleeding hands. Haven't taken a Pepsid since December 2023. That's my testimonial.
Right. And I mean, my hair, I have to get it cut all the time. My skin is just better.
Yep.
My hands don't get dry like they did. My face doesn't get